A black woman in a janitor's uniform sat quietly in the corner of a luxury hotel ballroom. Hundreds of wealthy people in expensive suits and dresses walked past her like she was invisible. They were there for a billionaire's charity gala, drinking champagne and taking selfies. Then the billionaire walked to the microphone. He pointed directly at the woman in the janitor's uniform and said 5 words that made the entire room go silent. "That woman saved my life." What happened next shocked everyone, because the quiet woman they'd been ignoring all night wasn't just a janitor. She was a nurse, a hero, and someone who proved that the most important people in the room are often the ones nobody notices. Before we dive into this powerful story, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share real stories about respect, hidden heroes, and people getting the recognition they deserve. Now let's see what really happened that night. Grace Thompson was 52 years old. She worked 2 jobs to support her family. During the day, she was a registered nurse at City General Hospital. At night and on weekends, she worked as a janitor at the Grand Meridian Hotel to pay for her daughter's college tuition. Grace had been a nurse for 28 years. She'd saved countless lives, worked through the pandemic when others quit, and never complained about long hours or difficult patients. Her colleagues called her the heart of the hospital because she cared about everyone, not just as patients but as human beings. But Grace was quiet. She didn't brag about her accomplishments. She didn't post on social media. She just did her work with dignity and went home to her family. Tonight, she was at the Grand Meridian Hotel working her janitor shift during the Phillips Foundation Gala. The event was hosted by tech billionaire Michael Phillips to raise money for medical research. Grace was there to clean up, empty trash, and stay invisible while wealthy people celebrated. Michael Phillips was 58 years old and worth $4.7 billion. He'd built a technology company from nothing and became one of the richest men in America. But 3 months ago, something happened that changed his life forever. Michael had a massive heart attack while visiting his mother at City General Hospital. He collapsed in the hallway. His heart stopped. He was clinically dead for 2 minutes. The person who saved him? Grace Thompson. She was walking to her shift when she saw him collapse. She immediately started CPR, called for help, and refused to stop even when it seemed hopeless. Because of her quick action and skill, Michael survived. He tried to thank her afterward, but Grace had already returned to work. When he asked for her name, the hospital told him due to privacy policies, they couldn't give out employee information without consent. Grace never reached out. She didn't want recognition. She'd just done her job. For 3 months, Michael searched for the woman who saved his life. He hired investigators. He went back to the hospital multiple times. But Grace worked different shifts, and he kept missing her. He didn't know her name. He only remembered her face and that she wore nurse's scrubs. Tonight's gala was raising money for the cardiac unit that treated Michael after his heart attack. As he prepared to give his speech, he walked through the ballroom greeting guests, and that's when he saw her. The Grand Meridian Ballroom was filled with 300 wealthy donors. Women wore designer gowns, men wore tuxedos. Jewelry sparkled under crystal chandeliers. Everyone was networking, taking pictures, and trying to impress each other. Grace Thompson pushed her cleaning cart along the back wall, picking up empty glasses and wiping down tables. She wore her hotel uniform, a simple blue janitor's outfit with her name tag. Not a single person made eye contact with her. To them, she was part of the furniture. A young woman in a $10,000 dress actually bumped into Grace's cart and snapped, "Watch where you're going." Grace apologized quietly and moved her cart out of the way. The woman didn't even look at her. Grace was used to this. When you're a janitor, people look through you like you don't exist. She didn't take it personally. She just did her job and stayed quiet. But across the room, Michael Phillips had just entered. He was greeting donors, shaking hands, thanking people for coming. Then he glanced toward the back wall and froze. It was her, the nurse who saved his life. He'd recognize that face anywhere. But she was wearing a janitor's uniform. That confused him for a moment. Then he understood she must work a second job. His heart broke a little. The woman who saved his life was working 2 jobs while people who did far less were drinking expensive champagne. Michael made a decision. Tonight, everyone was going to know who she was. Grace continued her work, unaware that Michael had seen her. She emptied trash cans near the stage, moving quietly and efficiently. A group of men in expensive suits stood nearby, talking loudly about their businesses. One of them dropped a napkin on the floor right in front of Grace. He saw her standing there but didn't bother to pick it up. He just walked away, expecting her to clean it up. Grace bent down and picked it up without a word. Another woman called out, "Excuse me, cleaning lady, there's a spill by table 7. She didn't say please. She didn't say thank you when Grace nodded and headed to clean it up. Grace was just the help. A businessman was taking a selfie, and Grace accidentally walked into the background. "Hey, can you move?" he said irritably. "You're ruining my shot." Grace apologized and stepped aside. The man acted like she'd committed a crime by existing in his space. Through it all, Grace remained calm and professional. She'd learned long ago that some people only see the uniform, not the person wearing it. She found dignity in her work, even when others didn't see it. But Michael Phillips was watching all of this. With every dismissive gesture, every person who treated Grace like she was invisible, his anger grew. These people were here to celebrate medical professionals and healthcare workers. Yet they were treating an actual nurse, a hero, like she was beneath them. The moment that made Michael decide to speak up came when Grace was wiping down a table near the front of the room. A well-dressed couple in their 40s was standing nearby, and the woman's expensive purse was on the table Grace needed to clean. "Excuse me, ma'am," Grace said politely. "May I clean this table?" The woman looked at Grace with annoyed surprise. "I'm using this table." "I understand, ma'am. I just need to wipe it down quickly. It'll only take a moment." The woman sighed dramatically and picked up her purse like Grace had asked her to move a mountain. "The help is so pushy these days," she said loudly to her husband. "You'd think they'd know to wait until we're done." Her husband laughed. "That's what happens when everyone gets participation trophies. No one knows their place anymore." Grace's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She quickly wiped the table and moved away. She'd heard worse in her years of working service jobs, but it still stung. Michael had heard the exchange. He was standing 20 feet away, and the woman's loud complaint carried across the room. He saw the flash of hurt on Grace's face before she composed herself. That was it. He was done watching. But then something else happened that made the situation even worse. The Gala's event coordinator, a woman named Diane, approached Grace looking stressed and angry. "Grace, I need to talk to you," she said loudly enough that nearby guests could hear. "Yes, ma'am," Grace said quietly. "I've had 3 complaints that you're getting in the way of guests. You need to stay in the back until the speeches are over. You can clean up after everyone leaves." Grace looked confused. "But you told me to clean during the event." "I don't care what I said before," Diane interrupted. "You're being distracting. Just go wait in the supply closet or something until I call you." Some nearby guests were watching now. A few smirked. One whispered to her friend, "She must have done something wrong." Grace felt her face grow hot with embarrassment. She hadn't done anything wrong. She'd been doing exactly what she was told to do. But she was being scolded in front of everyone like a child. "Yes, ma'am," Grace said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She started to push her cart toward the exit, her head down. That's when Michael Phillips walked over to the microphone. The room's attention shifted to him. He was supposed to give the opening remarks, but he was 10 minutes early. His assistant looked confused. "Ladies and gentlemen," Michael said, his voice carrying across the ballroom. "I'm going to give my speech now if that's all right, because there's something I need to say while everyone is here." The room quieted down. Guests turned to face the stage. Grace stopped near the exit, not sure if she should leave during the speech or wait. Diane gestured for her to stay put. Michael looked directly at Grace. She saw him staring and felt even more embarrassed. Great, she thought, now the billionaire is probably going to complain about me too. But what happened next was nothing like what she expected. 3 months ago, Michael began, his voice emotional but strong, "I died. My heart stopped. I collapsed in a hospital hallway and I was clinically dead for 2 minutes. The room was completely silent now. Even the waiters stopped moving. The reason I'm standing here today is because of one person, a nurse who saw me collapse and refused to let me die. She performed CPR for 2 full minutes until the crash team arrived. The doctors told me later that without her immediate action, I would have suffered brain damage or death." Michael paused, his eyes still on Grace. "I tried to thank her. I tried to find her. I wanted to give her a reward, tell her how grateful I am, let her know that she's the reason I'm alive to see my grandchildren, to run my company, to stand here tonight." He pointed directly at Grace, who stood frozen near the exit, her hand on her cleaning cart. "That woman," Michael said clearly, "is Grace Thompson, and she's not just a janitor. She's a registered nurse with 28 years of experience at City General Hospital. She works 2 jobs to put her daughter through college. She saved my life, and tonight I watched every single person in this room treat her like she was invisible." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Every head turned to look at Grace. The color drained from Diane's face. The couple who'd complained about Grace moving her purse looked horrified. Grace stood there, stunned, her eyes wide. She didn't know what to say or do. Michael continued, his voice growing stronger. This gala tonight is supposed to honor healthcare workers. We're raising money for the cardiac unit that saved my life. We're here to celebrate the people who dedicate their lives to helping others. He gestured around the room. But how many of you even noticed Grace tonight? How many of you said thank you when she cleaned your table? How many of you looked her in the eye and treated her like a human being? The silence was deafening. People shifted uncomfortably. Some looked ashamed. Others stared at their shoes. I watched a woman complain that Grace was pushy for asking to clean a table. I watched a man tell her she was ruining his selfie. I watched your event coordinator humiliate her in front of everyone for doing her job. Diane looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Grace Thompson represents everything this gala is supposed to celebrate. Compassion, dedication, selflessness. She saves lives during the day and works a second job at night so her daughter can have opportunities she never had. She's a hero, and you treated her like she was invisible because she was wearing a janitor's uniform. Michael stepped down from the stage and walked directly to Grace. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. Grace stood there, tears streaming down her face, not knowing what to do. Michael reached her and took both her hands in his. Grace, I've been looking for you for 3 months. I wanted to thank you properly. Because of you, I'm alive. Because of you, my grandchildren still have a grandfather. Because of you, I get to do this work and try to make a difference. He turned to face the crowd, still holding Grace's hands. Tonight, I'm announcing a $5 million donation to City General Hospital's Nursing Education Fund in Grace Thompson's name. And I'm establishing the Grace Thompson Scholarship for children of healthcare workers who are pursuing higher education. The crowd erupted in applause, not because they were told to, but because they were genuinely moved and probably ashamed of how they'd acted. But Michael wasn't finished. As the applause died down, Michael addressed the crowd one final time. I want everyone here to think about something tonight. Grace could have ignored me when I collapsed. She was off duty heading to her shift. It wasn't her responsibility, but she stopped and saved my life anyway. He looked at Grace, who was wiping tears from her face. She didn't do it for recognition. She didn't do it for a reward. She did it because that's who she is. That's what nurses do. They see someone who needs help and they help. Then he turned back to the audience. How many opportunities did each of you have tonight to show that same compassion? To see someone working hard and say thank you? To treat someone with basic human dignity regardless of what they were wearing? The event coordinator, Diane, stepped forward with tears running down her face. Grace, I'm so sorry. I was stressed about the event going perfectly and I took it out on you. That was wrong. You didn't deserve that. Grace nodded, accepting the apology with her characteristic grace. It's okay. We all have hard days. The couple who had complained about Grace pushed through the crowd. The woman was crying. We're so sorry. We were so rude to you. Please forgive us. One by one, people approached Grace to apologize, to thank her, to acknowledge that they'd been wrong. The businessman who told her she was ruining his selfie looked genuinely ashamed as he shook her hand. When the apologies subsided, Michael handed Grace the microphone. She looked terrified at first, but he nodded encouragingly. Grace's voice was quiet at first but grew stronger as she spoke. I don't need apologies. We all make mistakes. We all have moments when we don't see people the way we should. She looked around the room. I'm not special. I'm just a nurse who did what any nurse would do, but I want to tell you something important. The room leaned in to hear her. Every day there are people around you who are invisible. The person who cleans your office. The person who delivers your food. The person who bags your groceries. They all have stories. They all have dreams. They all have value. She paused, her voice growing emotional. My daughter is studying to be a doctor. She works 3 part-time jobs while going to school. Sometimes she comes home crying because a customer was rude to her while she was working at the coffee shop. She wonders if she's good enough, if she belongs in medical school when people treat her like she's nobody. Grace wiped her eyes. But she is somebody, just like I'm somebody. Just like every person in this room is somebody, no matter what uniform they're wearing. The room was completely silent except for the sound of people quietly crying. So thank you, Mr. Phillips, for this honor. But more importantly, thank you for reminding everyone that we should see each other, really see each other. The applause that followed was different this time. It was quieter, more respectful, more genuine. People weren't just clapping, they were listening. The story didn't end that night. Someone recorded Michael's speech and Grace's response. The video went viral within 24 hours. Number See Each Other became a trending hashtag. News outlets picked up the story. Billionaire honors nurse who saved his life was the headline, but the real story was about respect and dignity. City General Hospital received thousands of applications for their nursing program. The Grace Thompson Scholarship received donations from around the country. Grace's daughter received a full scholarship to medical school from an anonymous donor, rumored to be Michael Phillips. But the most important change was smaller and more personal. At the Grand Meridian Hotel, the staff reported that guests started treating them differently. People learned their names. They said thank you. They looked them in the eye. Diane, the event coordinator, became an advocate for worker dignity. She implemented policies requiring guests to treat all staff with respect or face removal from events. The couple who had complained about Grace became regular donors to nursing scholarships and later volunteered at City General Hospital. Michael and Grace became friends. He attended her daughter's medical school graduation. She attended his grandson's birthday party. They started a foundation together focused on supporting healthcare workers and their families. 6 months after the gala, Grace gave a speech at a nursing conference. Her final words became famous. People ask me what I learned from that night at the gala. Here's what I learned. We're all invisible to someone. We all wear uniforms, whether it's scrubs or a janitor's outfit or an expensive suit. But underneath those uniforms, we're all human beings with hopes and fears and dreams. The question isn't whether people will always see you. The question is, do you see them? Do you see the person serving your coffee? Do you see the person cleaning your floor? Do you see the person who might one day save your life? Because here's the truth. The most important people in the room are often the ones nobody's looking at. Until someone points them out and says, that person matters. We should all be that someone for somebody else. If this story moved you or taught you something important, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel right now. We share stories about hidden heroes, respect, and people getting the recognition they deserve. Drop a comment and tell us, have you ever been invisible to others? Or have you realized you made someone feel invisible? How did it change you? Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss when we share these powerful true stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Treat them with kindness, see them, because one day you might need them to see you too.